Hello and welcome to another Grain News video. I'm Senior Machinery Editor Scott Garvey.
And I'm Greg Berg, Digital Editor of Glacier Farm Media.
Today Greg and I have been given a new toy to play with. Kubota has given us this XG850 UTV for a week.
And it's a Rancher Special Edition, and one thing we noticed right away, it's not orange. It's actually kind of a tan color.
And I'm kind of liking that color.
Yeah, it's great for the farm, I think, and yeah, just kind of a little bit different.
Yeah, so the XG850 is available in 5 different versions. Our Rancher version, of course, is the one we're testing, but there are others that include full weather enclosed cab, and others with just a plain open station. This one's kind of a mix. It's designed, as the name implies, to appeal to the rancher or farmer.
Exactly, yeah. And one thing that stood out for me, I liked a lot about it, was the maneuverability. It felt like the turning radius was really good in tight corners, and with what they call electric power steering, it made it a lot easier in the field to say if you're at a standstill, to kind of get going in the right direction again as well.
Yeah, driving these things, the steering can get kind of heavy on some models, especially at lower speeds and if you're carrying any cargo. And speaking of cargo, 1,000 pound carrying capacity in the cargo box, which is 15 cubic feet.
Yeah, and extendable as well.
It's extendable, right? So if you flip the tailgate down and roll out that fence, kind of like an F-150 short box has, kind of the same idea, you can get a full 4 feet there. So which isn't a bad length for a vehicle this size for a cargo capacity.
Yeah, and if I recall, the spec said 2,000 pound towing capacity as well.
Right,
so that's impressive.
Pretty significant towing capacity. That's one of the higher ones, typically expecting it to be somewhere around 1,500 pounds, but this ups it by 500 pounds.
I think that's where the CVT transmission maybe comes into play as well too, because I did like the low gear in this as well. It really felt like it would pull like the 85, or how many horsepower was it? 54 horsepower, pardon me, that it had.
Right. Yeah. It's they call it the CVT Plus transmission in this version. Some other nice features in the cab that you might not expect. Tilt steering, which is kind of nice considering that the seat's not movable.
Bench seat, that's right, yeah. We did see that there was, at first we thought, not enough storage capacity for gloves or just tools and stuff like that, but we did find there was storage capacity under the seat other than just the normal glove box and the dash.
Right, but it still doesn't come up to as much in-cab storage capacity as we found on some other machines, but if you, like you say, gloves or flashlights, stuff like that, ample room for that.
Yeah. One thing I did find too, the suspension, it's what you'd expect. It's going to be able to take a bit of a pounding because some of the areas we drove through today, there's a little bit of ruts, a little bit of hills, but it didn't feel jarring at the same time either. It wasn't soft, but it wasn't something if you hit a bump, you were going to really feel it in your back or anything like that.
Right, 4-wheel independent suspension on these, and pretty decent sized tires on this model as well.
Exactly, yeah. One thing I did find when we were hitting those bumps though, is that I went looking for a grab handle, and maybe because I'm used to my car so much, I was reaching for above my head where it was actually in front of me. Now, I don't know if that's exactly common in a lot of UTVs, but I did feel like maybe it was a more natural fit if I was to go up like a train conductor and pull like a lever or something.
Because you have to reach out forward. That's not a natural sort of position.
Yeah, yeah, and you found something interesting on your side. With
the grab handle on this side is actually Velcroed. It's an optional feature by the look of the spec sheet. It's Velcroed to the A-frame, or the A-pillar. So
I guess that's because you're naturally hanging onto the steering wheel all the time, I guess.
I guess. Maybe just handy in and out or whatever. I mean, it's still relatively solid.
It's sturdy, yeah. It's sturdy, yeah.
It's just not what you'd expect.
Right, right.
Lots of rear view mirrors. You got the sides and the interior sides if you're towing a trailer. And speaking of trailer towing, it's a 2-inch receiver for the hitch, so that's pretty convenient. If you have a pretty average pickup truck receiver, it's going to take the same one.
One thing particular about this Kubota as well is if you ever find yourself in a jam or somebody else in a jam, the winch on the front is rated to 3,500 pounds. So that's actually considerable, and it probably really help you out in some sticky situations, we might call, if you're on the ranch. Yeah,
that's pretty decent winch capacity for a vehicle this size, for sure. And it's a steel cable on this one rather than a fabric fabric
nylon or something.
Yeah. It also has selectable 2- and 4-wheel drive, so you don't need to keep it in 4-wheel drive all the time. and differential lock, so which is handy for those muddy spots.
Right, right. Yeah, I did find that sometimes the acceleration was a little bit jerky, but I think that's fairly common in these UTVs as well. Like you either get a little bit of gas and all of a sudden all at once and you're kind of thrown back a little bit.
It's that low speed start off. You just can't help it with these transmissions. They just want to be a bit go or no go.
Right, right.
It's kind of hard to feather them, which is a bit complicated when you're backing up to a trailer hitch to try and get that position just right, but that's a standard feature across pretty much all brands we've tested.
Something I felt too, the more time you spent behind the wheel, you'd probably get more familiar with it as well.
Get that throttle position just right.
Yeah. I find going in and out of this Kubota too, there was a lot of leg room. I'm 6 feet tall. I didn't feel like I was bunched up at any time going in and out. The gates, the doors open real easily. They catch really well. Yeah, they felt like a really solid kind of feature.
Yeah, it is a roomy cab and lots of headroom. Yeah, yeah. Even though the seat doesn't move, I'm not sure. Maybe a smaller person might have to sit up a bit on the edge of it, but.
Well, we did have a very small passenger at one point, and she seemed to be okay with that.
So. Winnie was quite happy with her position in the passenger seat.
That's right. Yeah.
So we've had this vehicle for several days now, and Greg, pros and cons, where do we stand?
You know, for me, it's relatively simple. I get in here and I look for a grab handle, and we're hitting a little bit of rough areas in this back area, and I wanted to naturally reach above just to kind of hold myself in position. It felt like reaching forward didn't feel natural, so I don't know if they could make it like an automobile, if that's common to UTVs on the market, but making it above my head would be a little bit easier to grab, but maybe that's because I'm a bit taller and I can reach it easier too, I don't know. That and the tilting bed I thought was a fantastic option as well. It raised real easily, the catches for it were really easy to release, but pushing it down, it felt like there's a lot more hydraulic force than necessary to kind of get it back into a flat position to hook it up again. How about yourself?
Yeah, one of the pros I thought was the electric power steering. That really made handling this vehicle a lot nicer than some of the manual steering ones we've tested in the past. And I would say that another pro is this cabin. It's spacious, lots of headroom. I don't think anybody's going to feel cramped in here, although, you know, it's narrow obviously for this type of vehicle, so 3 people are going to be jammed a bit, but if you have 2 people in the seat, lots of room, lots of leg room, lots of headroom.
Right. No, overall, I think this Kubota Rancher Special Edition is a pretty solid UTV.
It impressed us. We're pretty happy with it. I think so. It was a week well done.
Keep it for another week even, who knows?
Maybe Kubota won't miss it.
Well, we'll see. You have your phone number?
Yeah. And we are here in rural Manitoba, so for all you Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans, we're going to smuggle Greg back out of the province.
It ain't easy being green, what can I say?
Thanks for watching.
Take care.